Hi folks, this is Ernest Morrow here. I want to share with you the best piece of advice I've ever gotten when it comes to intimacy and relationships. So many people these days are awakening, it seems, to this practice of relationship, this practice of intimacy, understanding that if you're anything like me, that we've had no training. We are kind of born and thrown into school, and we learn all sorts of things like trigonometry and what the capital of Japan is, but we have no idea how to sustain intimacy with other human beings. And then we get into relationships and we get into marriages and we get into all sorts of different situations, and it turns out that that lack of skillfulness has consequences. And so many of us are remediating ourselves, trying to find out what the heck do we do in these intimate spaces? How do we actually practice intimacy? And so the best piece of advice I've ever gotten trickled down to me from a few different sources in slightly different forms. It's one of those timeless pieces of wisdom that applies, for me anyway, in the most impactful way. And the best piece of advice I ever got about intimacy and relationships was this: I have to want to be wrong about my judgments, about the person who I'm in relationship with. I've got to want to be wrong. So imagine this. I'm going through my day and my partner does that thing. And when she does that thing, it makes me believe that she is thoughtless, that she is cruel, that she has forgotten about me entirely, that she is on her own agenda, she's out to lunch, she's not paying attention to me. All the things that I think about. You know those things for you. Those things that person does, and we're right in the proof to ourselves that this is evidence that they are that kind of person. Basically, what's happening is we're turning them into our enemy. We're turning them into somebody who's out to get us. No problem, right? We're in our limbic brain, we're in our reptilian fight or flight, we're scanning the rustling bushes for tigers. We're out to protect ourselves, yeah? We're out to make sure that we don't get screwed. Fine. But you know what flies out the window the minute that we sail on that boat, leave the harbor, take off on that airplane, head for those sunny skies? Intimacy leaves. Gone like that, on and off. It's off the table. You cannot do intimacy from your reptilian brain. You cannot do intimacy when your partner is your enemy. You got to want to be wrong about it. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to feel all those things. You're going to feel scared. You're going to feel shame. You're going to feel sad. All those emotions are going to be there, and you got to find a way to deal with them. You got to work with somebody like me, or have an amazing support network that you can process this stuff with and get to the bottom of it and start to lower the residue of those trigger responses. But even when those trigger responses are at their height, you can always do one thing. You can want to be wrong. You can remember that you got to want to be wrong about the enemy that you're turning your beloved into in that moment. Because if you don't, then intimacy leaves, love leaves, connection leaves, and the possibility of getting our needs for attachment and closeness met when we've turned our partner into the enemy are about zero. The probability that that enemy is somehow going to fight through your projections and get into your heart and make you realize that everything's actually okay, pretty close to nil. Especially if it keeps happening over and over and over again. Because then what happens is you're the enemy and we're just in this constant battle in which the love that flows between us is completely left on the shelf. And we're just interacting like snakes or lizards, fighting for a piece of real estate, total reactive. The practice of intimacy demands that we want to be wrong about those lustful, erotic, charged judgments when we think we've just got it made. We're finally sure that that person is doing that thing. It feels so good because it feels like we can protect ourselves if we know what's going on. But what we forget in those moments is the thing that we really want more than anything else in the world is not to feel safe, but to feel close. And those things are actually not able to occupy the same space. We can't protect ourselves and feel close all at once. So if you want closeness, if that's the number one thing, you gotta want to be wrong when you turn your beloved into an enemy. I've done it 1,000 times. I've killed relationships, and I've been on the receiving end of it, and I felt the heartbreak when the person I love more than anything can't see me for who I am. We play both roles all the time. Common denominator, result, intimacy, 0. So that is the best piece of relationship advice I ever got. It put me finally in the driver's seat, thinking to myself, having just the idea, I can want to be wrong about that. I can actually say to myself and my partner in real time, I'm feeling crazy and I want to be wrong. I think you're the devil, but I don't have to believe everything I think. And I'm going to get to the bottom of this. So find somebody with whom you can get to the bottom of it. And maybe, just maybe, this will be one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever heard. From the heart. Peace.